Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be continuing with my read of Dragon Ball Z. Yes, I know I should have started with Dragon Ball. Everyone tells me that. I knew that before I started Dragon Ball Z. I just started with Dragon Ball Z because these are what I have in the house, because this is what Jack enjoys, and because Jack and so many kids I know that like Dragon Ball, so many of my students, when they talk to me, they talk about Dragon Ball Z, and a lot of them, as far as I can tell, haven't even read Dragon Ball, or they consider it to be the lesser of the two chunks of the story. This is the one they're all interested in. So I was particularly interested in seeing what it is about this that's so compelling to them. I understand that Dr. Slump and early Dragon Ball would be better for me and more telling of Akira Toriyama. But when he died, Brandon and Sean got me interested in his work, and since I had this is where I started, so that's what we're going to keep going with. But I guarantee no matter what happens in Dragon Ball Z and what my opinion of it is in the end, I will look at Dragon Ball proper and Dr. Slump. Promise, promise, promise. In the front here, there's a little bit of note from Akira Toriyama from 1990, where he's saying that he's fairly confident about his health. It doesn't seem like he's having any pain from being an artist for so long. His right hand has been sore and is getting to the point where it's painful. So he is starting to suffer from some physical damages. But then he says, it's been almost 11 years of straight manga drawing since I started Dr. Slump on through to Dragon Ball, and I haven't had much time off. Maybe a doctor will force me to take 3 months off, though actually my hand has been fine since yesterday, darn it. So even though he's kind of joking and playing around, this is a guy who's definitely exhausted from the grind. He's like begging for a doctor to intervene. So to me, this sounds like an MMA fighter in a corner with like a like broken hand or something, and they're just like they're like they're not going to be the one to call it. They're just hoping the doctor will see it and call it, and they'll be mad if the doctor called it. I'm sure he would have been too, but that hope. So that's a little bit sad to me. And you could see, especially if you were just chasing the what made the audience happy, that would get tiresome after a while. So anyways, into the story. Right out the gate, Kuririn finds one of the 7 Dragon Balls. We're on the planet Frisia, hunting down Dragon Balls, racing against time to get them before Vegeta does. In this scene right here, Kuririn also gets like a big power up from the great old sage that's the Frisian on planet Frisia, who he's getting, this guy here sitting in the chair. So gets this like immediate power up, which is cool, and a Dragon Ball. You also have Gohan over here has found a Dragon Ball that Vegeta previously hid. So now we got 2 Dragon Balls on the side of the good guys, and Kuririn is racing back to get Gohan to see if we can get a power up for Gohan too, because Kuririn knows that Gohan was going to be super powerful if he can reach his superpower. So this cycle of like everyone just constantly striving to get more powerful is kicking in this book. There's a strange joke in here where Gohan is like has something here that's saying is a watch. It's not the Dragon Ball that he's hiding, but he's pretending like this is all he has, and he says it's a watch. And then Vegeta says, Earthlings just smart enough to find their way across space, but not smart enough to make a watch any smaller than that. Just a strange, kind of quirky little bit of dialogue there that took me almost out of the flow of the story because it was so strange, but it also made me laugh because it's just such a weird assumption for this character to make that like that's the smallest Earth watches get or something, and just this a super old school like watch on a chain style watch. I don't know. I thought that was a funny, quirky little moment. Of course, like with the first arc, I'm curious to see if this is a trope in all of the arcs, if this is a repeat pattern. But while everyone else is out doing all the hard, dirty work, Gohan or Goku is just somewhere else, not to be found, on his way. Everyone's waiting for him to show up and save them. He's, I think, always going to be the cavalry in this. But he's got to spend time, just like he did when he was in the land of the dead. Now he's in this spaceship that's got extra gravity in it. He's been training it under increasing gravity and has gotten up to 100 times the gravity of Earth, and so again has become extra strong. That power up thing is a little silly to me, but I do like the message of Goku, where it's like, look, if you want to be the strongest, you got to just take a lot of time out and train, and that's all you do is you just train. And so I think that's healthy, but it is also funny that they're throwing in this little extra bit that while he's training, he's not being there for his family. I wonder also, looking at Toriyama kind of being tired, if there's a little bit of himself in Goku where he feels like he's constantly missing out because he's always just working, working, working. I don't know, that's just speculation, but given what's in the beginning here and just me noticing this pattern now, I can't really call it twice in a row a pattern, but if it happens a third time, maybe. But it seems like, maybe that's a little subconscious thing going on in there. Then we meet a totally ridiculous set of characters that is actually making the book more interesting for me because they're so silly. We have what's called the Ginyu Force, and they're led by this guy, Major Ginyu or something like that. Oh no, this is Ginyu here, bent over, showing his ass cheek for some reason, and bent over here, and they're doing their super cool pose. But we have Ryukam, Buta, Jesse, Gerd, and Ginyu, who's apparently fight poses, bending over and flashing his jazz hands at you, and that's just kind of cracks me up and is silly, so I like that. We get another thing where we're going through, we got to battle them one by one. So there's the Buta character is fast. This Gerd character can momentarily freeze time and also seems to have some telekinetic abilities. There's a really intense, I thought this was more intense than Dragon Ball Z got here with the gore. Vegeta cutting this guy's head off right here. I think that's a pretty wild image. And throughout this sequence, I think you start to see Toriyama become a little bit better with the Action Man manga, or at least realizing, like in this sequence with this character here, that having them be silly, like you can still have them be stiff, but if you make it silly, it's actually kind of funny. And this character and how this sequence plays out with like the humorous action reminds me a lot of how Dave Sim dealt with the Roach character in Cerebus. I could see this being, you just Neil Adams it up a little bit, and this is a Cerebus Roach drawing. And I think that's a much better approach to action for Toriyama because he seems to be better at the cartooning and comedy. And you can see that in these fight sections here at the end. First off, there's some actual musculature. The arms just aren't like these tube arms anymore. There's a nice big shoulder, and there's still some funky anatomy going on the arm where the bicep looks like it's on the back, or the triceps drawn so funny you don't really see where it connects. But there's a lot more elasticity in these images. There's a lot more sense of force, not just in the effects that are put in, but in the cartooning itself. And so seeing those cartooning chops on that face go with the action stuff is giving me hope that he's kind of figuring that out. And as the book goes more and more action based, that in sequences like this, I won't be so icked out by the stiffness of the art. There's still some stiffness here and there, but I just think overall these are quite a bit better. And then this Roach character here, now that this is like the last spread of the volume, he's doing this weird like butt cheek pose. So again, A, more dynamic, B, funnier, and this is making the book way more enjoyable for me. So I hope that this is kind of how the book stays from here on out, or that we at least come back to in the action sequences. Some of this more like poking fun, and then I get it, like this is why the kids like it. It's action, but it's also funny, and it's also kind of edgy potty humor. So this is giving me the best sense so far of why like an 11-year-old 12-year-old would think Dragon Ball Z is the best thing. Obviously I read Dragon Ball though, so I don't know what that is, but I think it's probably the combination of the action and the effects and the humor and all of that, the infinite getting more powerful and all of that. It's too bad they don't seem to talk about all the hard work that Goku does, but I think I'm getting it more now. I don't know, we'll see as it keeps going. I'm looking forward to the rest of them, no matter what goes on in them.
Centralia is an awesome, gorgeous comic by rising Dutch star Neil Van Peet. This is his first work. It's a really great sci-fi story. There's a world in the future where the sun has gotten so hot that people can't be on the ground, so they have to run around. There's a lot of conceits that go with that. What is the world that looks like? And I think you can see by the art that Sean's description of this book as like a Moebius for young adults, a YA Moebius, is a really great description of this really gorgeous and like wild, wacky, fun book.